23 Santa Cruz County Board of Education meeting to order, and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Trustee Acosta. Trustee Alta.
Here.
Trustee Filicetti.
Here.
Trustee Nichols.
Here.
Trustee Roth.
Here.
Trustee Sanchez.
Here.
President Van Allen.
Here. Thank you. And we have a request from a board member for remote attendance due to a physical or medical condition that prevents them attending in person. And I would like a motion from the board to approve or reject that request.
I'll make the motion to allow Rose Filicetti to appear on Zoom.
Motion by Roth,
Second.
second by Alto. And we need a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Alta.
Yes.
Trustee Filicetti.
Aye.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Trustee Roth.
Yes.
Trustee Sanchez.
Yes.
President Van Allen.
Aye. Motion carries to all present. Welcome
So,
to the meeting remotely. Oh,
I'm sorry, so trustee Felicetti's vote is, would not be valid until after the vote. And so we wouldn't count that vote.
thank you. Now's the time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Dr. Sabah to lead us.
Please rise. Please face the flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Trustees, I need a motion to approve today's agenda.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Motion by,
second.
second by Filicetti. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously by all present. This is the opportunity for public comment. This is the time for anyone from the public to address the board on items not on today's agenda. And if you wish to address us, there's a little form on the side, little blue form to fill out and give it to the clerk over here. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address the board today? Seeing none, we'll close that part of the agenda and move on to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence other than what was in our?
I did email you all the summary of support that was drafted by Associate Superintendent Angela Meeker. So that should be in your emails.
Did members receive that?
It was sent earlier today.
I probably left the house before it.
Dr. Miko will be covering the material in that part of the agenda. So
I'll read it later.
good. Okay. Thank you. We're now to section 6 of our agenda, reports, discussions, and presentations. And I'd like to invite us to look at 6.1, the Santa Cruz Office of Education Retirement Recognitions. Dr. Sabah.
Thank you so much, President Van Allen, members of the board. It's really it's always bittersweet to have these celebrations because on the one hand, we have such an amazing team here at the County Office of Education. And on the other, we want to honor and celebrate the people that have dedicated so much of their lives, have made such sacrifices to work on behalf of the students of Santa Cruz County. And this has never been more true than our retiree today, which is Sita Moon. I've had the opportunity to work with Sita more closely this last year than ever before. And partly because I think that our organization has continued to recognize the power and importance of our early childhood education. And we have such an amazing team, I think a stellar team here at the COE. And we play I think a really important role to bring together the childcare centers, childcare homes, many different institutions, organizations, parents, families, and impacting such a huge number of students. And when I say impacting, I'm talking about changing the lives, the trajectory, the success of so many students. And Sita has been at the heart of this work. When I heard that Sita was considering retirement, I thought, how can a person who's 45 years old be considering retirement? And so Sita has been so instrumental in helping to support the CDRC team, to connect families to resources, to advocate for families, because we recognize that so many of our families can't afford, don't have access. There are not enough places for our families to get those services. And she has worked, of course, with others in the department to, help families out, because this, for many, this is the difference between being able to have a paycheck or not, if they're able to find childcare. It's the difference between having enough food to eat or shelter for their families. And so I want to ask Sita, well, I'm going to call her up in a moment, but first there's a couple of people that also want to share a few things about Sita. But I just have to say, it's been such an honor and a privilege to learn from you, Sita, to watch you be such a calm presence. You work with such grace, and you are such a role model for many of us. And you are leaving a legacy of advocacy, a legacy of championing students and families, and that will continue thanks to the many lives you've touched. I'm going to ask Maria Castro, who is our director of our Migrant Head Start programs, to come on up and share a few words about Sita.
Well, I think I've known her for close to 20 years before she worked here, before I worked here. And you took the main word. She's such a calming presence. And she, of course, CDRC mainly helps parents find childcare, but the other part is that she helps the providers navigate the labyrinth of becoming a licensed childcare provider, and provides a lot of trainings for those who are brand new. And that's helped my program, Migrant Head Start, to find new qualified providers for our program. And she was it was obvious her contribution to the COE during the pandemic, because there was so much stress and so much confusion and changing, well, every week. And through it all, Sita was never flustered. She was always just smiling and calm and professional. And she had regular contact with the providers who would drive through to pick up masks or tests, etc. And I don't know, we continued working throughout the whole pandemic. And I think in part it was due to the support of the CDRC and the impact of her manner. And personally, of course, I'm going to miss her terribly. Yep.
Thank you so much, Maria. We also have, if I may, Sita's partner in crime, Diana Munoz, who is joining us over Zoom. And if we could highlight her so she could fill the screen. Diana is home recovering from I believe some surgery. And so thank you so much for being here, Diane. I hope you're doing great. I hope you're recovering well. Tell us a little bit about Sita, Diane.
Oh my goodness. You took the words right out of my mouth, Barris. I was going to say partners in crime, and I should say partners in early education. The COE has established a legacy in our community for providing support to early educators and the infrastructure of our early care and education system. And Sita is certainly, we are partners in that legacy with the support of COE and also your support, Barris. But Sita has, gosh, we've been together for 20 years, right, Sita? And moving through so many different facets and changes in the early care system. And I think that the words that come to mind is certainly calmness, but the way that Sita dedicates herself to the work that she has provided over the years is just astounding to me. And she does it with such kindness and grace. And as the Childhood Advisory Council coordinator and community organizer, we work very closely together on all parts of the early care and education system. And so, at times I used to spend more time with CETA than sometimes at my home, because we would be turning around on such a fast track, trying to provide services for early educators, for families, and for the young children that they are serving. And again, all with the outcome of impacting children's trajectory, their educational experiences as they move through the system, from the early care community onto the TK-12 system, in preparing them for positive experiences in those systems. And of course, like Maria, I will certainly miss CETA, although I'm sure, as I continue to say over the last several months, in early education, our leaders retire, and with them goes this great brain trust. However, we always keep them in mind as we are planning new grants and so forth, and bringing them back to help us with those types of work in those grants. And certainly, we know CETA needs to rest, and yes, we will be respectful of her time to rest and spend some time focusing on herself and her family, but certainly always keeping her in mind as new grants come available, and wanting to work again with her at a different level. So CETA, my apologies, I'm not able to be there, but certainly, we've been keeping contact with each other, and know that that is something that we will continue to do in the future. We have plans for an offsite get together with some of our early care stakeholders that'll be happening in July. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you, CETA. I sure appreciate all that you've done, and all the support you've given me throughout the years too, as well.
Thank you so much, Diane. And we're really fortunate to have a deep bench in the CDRC. It's a small but mighty crew. Cristina Valentin is taking CETA's position, and so we know that the great work is going to continue. At this moment, I would love to welcome Sita Moon to come join me here and share a few words. Let's please give a round of applause for Sita Moon.
Okay. Special place to stand. Oh, thank you. I forgot that other people might say things, so now I hardly need to say anything at all. That's good. But I do want to say thank you. The COE as an employer has really been a wonderful work experience for me. The way that people are respected here and listened to and valued is really significant, and I just appreciate that so much. Before coming here, I worked for many, many years as a preschool teacher, and that was lovely work. It was really wonderful to be with the kids and to support the families. But we need to realize as a community that we're functioning in a crisis as far as younger people not going into the field. And why are they not going into the field? Do they not like children? No, they still love children. They just need to survive. They need to make money. And there is no wealth to gain in early childhood education. There's no way to sustain yourself. And so it's really worrisome. Some of our wonderful programs can't even staff themselves enough to be fully at capacity. So I'm putting that out to you folks as something to be aware of, but also, the CDRC and also the Childhood Advisory Council, like Diane said, we work in partnership to help the workforce, to promote college education, to promote the ECE units and the degrees that people need to further their work and further their status. So the way that Ferris has supported childcare providers, early educators, the directors of the centers with weekly Zoom calls for them for the last 3 years, that is so exceptional. He is the only superintendent in the state that's doing that kind of support for early education, because he knows, when does learning start? Now we know it starts even before babies are born. You cannot ignore those early years, and you need to invest and help kids prepare. But when you do that, you help the families advance. You help them become contributing members of our community, of our culture, and you help them rise. And we just see it. If you stay a long time, you see it. You see the adults coming back, the adult children bringing their children to childcare, and you see the growth and the prosperity in our community, which the poor early educators need to feel that prosperity as well. So that's what we can do moving forward. We have a lot of supports in place. I want to thank my coworkers all of these years. I've been here almost 20 years. So has Christina Valentin, so has Brenda Ruiz, so has Diane, so has Maria. It's just a little family for us in our department, working together and making sure everything's covered. And yes, COVID was hard. So all we did was just do extra work during COVID. It didn't really phase us in the way that it phased some, I don't know, workers or some agencies or things like that. So thank you so much. And thank you so much, Ferris, for understanding. He gets us. The providers, they wanted to nominate him for president. I'm not kidding. So that tells you that they really do appreciate his contribution to their, just their esteem. And I think that's the key. So thank you all for being a wonderful board and for.
I'm going to ask President Sita if you could wait one moment. Could you wait one moment? I'm going to ask President Van Allen to join me up here. We'd like to present Sita with a small token of our appreciation. And as is our tradition, and so on behalf of the County Board of Education and the County Office of Education, we'd like to present this award for your 20 years of invaluable service on behalf of the children of Santa Cruz County. Sita, thank you for all you have done. And it's been such an honor being part of your work here.
Is it sometimes?
Yes, absolutely.
There
There you go. And let's say, if you wouldn't mind, there you go.
Blue glass, my favorite. You know, I
And
have a
then-
collection at home.
And then do you have anybody you'd like to call up to join us for the picture?
Aw. Oh, is he taking a picture with my come up? Papa, Christina, Maria, anybody want to come?
Yeah.
Take a picture with me? My kids are on the way. They're always
Oh,
late.
oh, I'm so sorry. We would have waited. Oh, well, that's all right. Maybe they'll.
As long as we go
Hopefully.
meet somebody.
Okay, all right, great.
Chris,
If
I
you-
remember you visiting our children's center when I worked at Community Children's Center.
You're gonna stand right in the middle here, the middle of I'm Ferris. Hi,
My husband,
Richard. Very nice to meet you, Richard.
Tell me what to do. And I'll go now. I am the worst. when it comes to photos.
First, we'll do look at the phone right now. 1, 2, 3. Got it. And then over here.
Last picture ever.
That's mine. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so pretty. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
The
you.
board is probably gonna want to share a few words, if you wouldn't mind just
Oh, my
hanging out here while they do that.
Hang out. On a chair or?
Why don't you hang out over here?
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh,
Yes.
okay.
Well, for my comment, I just wanted to say that years ago, prehistoric times, I was on the Santa Cruz City Council, and the sweetest and among the first victories I ever had was to get the city to fund childcare. And it's so important, and I so much appreciate that what you and your colleagues do to provide the backup and the training and the support and everything. So I'm honored just to be part of this little ceremony here. So thank you.
Yes, Community Children's Center, I worked there for 25 years or something like that, and we were funded by the county and the city back then.
Trustees, any comments?
Sita, I have not met you, but I certainly know of the work that you have done. And the length of time that you have been involved in it is, thank you. Thank you. And you and your department or program have really put Santa Cruz County as a leader in this state, and perhaps even the nation. You know, my world is California, but it cannot be expressed enough, the importance of early childhood education. And I appreciate you speaking up about the need for new people coming in, young people coming into this program, because I know our children, they like to identify with all ages. So anyway, thank you, Sita.
Other trustees? Trustee Sanchez.
Yes. I just want to thank you for choosing a career in early childhood education. I think there's so many, from what I see, from what I read, you know, from the studies that have been done, you know, it's worth it, right? There's just so many benefits from investing in early childhood education, and it's just unfortunate that people in charge don't have the patience, right, to see the fruits of those labors. But again, I just want to thank you for choosing that career and for blessing us in the community in that way. Thank you.
Other comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Rose.
Yeah, Sita, I just want to thank you as a relatively new grandma. I think we all understood how important it was to invest in early childhood education and what it makes a difference over a person's lifetime. But during COVID in particular, when I watched my 4-year-old granddaughter run around an apartment with 2 working adults, it gave me an absolute appreciation of the work and the importance of early childhood education during COVID. So thank you so much for all you've done for us. Get the rest that you deserve. Thank you.
Any other trustee comments? Right, thank you. And once again, thank you, Sita. Trustees, we now move to item 6.2, presentation on the local indicators of our SOS. Is this the one? Oh, I'm sorry. From this local indicators presentation for the COE. Dr. Sabah. Dr. Eisen Gonzalez.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jennifer Eisen Gonzalez, who's going to be talking about the local indicators that are a requirement as part of our LCAP, our local control and accountability plan. And so thank you for being here, Dr. Eisen Gonzalez.
Good evening. Long time no see. It is really hard to go after that. That was beautiful. And I'm so happy to be here as part 2 of the LCAP requirements. Last week, we had the robust presentation, which covered all of the state priorities, including our local indicators in our LCAP. However, the requirement is that on the same board meeting that the school board adopts the LCAP, that the local indicators are presented in a non-consent item. And so we will go through these, and in the fall, what happens is the California School Dashboard portal opens up, and then what we do is we go in and we add basically parts of this document into it, and it completes it. So yeah, and next slide, please. All right, so priority 1 We met all of the priorities we're going over this evening. And just to briefly discuss priority 1, titled basic, is essentially that. Do we have instructors that are credentialed? Do we have facilities that are maintained? Do we have instructional materials? And you kind of go through a process and check off that, yes, we do. Priority 2, implementation of academic standards. You reflect on your implementation of the Common Core standards of your multilingual program. And priority 3, probably one of our favorite priorities, is parent engagement, which we went through in depth last week with, we have embedded in our LCAP goals for the Santa Cruz County Office of Education is parent engagement, empowerment, and connection with our programs. So that is one area that we are proud of and also continue to enhance each year. And next slide. So priorities 6, 7, 9, and 10 are covered on the slide. So school climates, which we went through our data each year, we're required to do different surveys. And on top of that, as we discussed, we do student focus groups. So our students come together each year at different sites and do focus groups. We have opportunities for parent engagement beyond the surveys as well. And also the Healthy Kids survey is administered every other year. Priority 7, access to a broad course of study. That's discussing how we're monitoring that all of our students have access. We're looking for any gaps that might exist between student groups and how we're improving upon those each year. And one of the things that to highlight about our programs are our intakes when students come into our programs, getting to know them and really meeting them where they're at, and then monitoring throughout their time with us, including student conferences that we have. We have at each of our sites wonderful parent conferences that I guess is kind of similar to what you would do in more of the elementary years, very in person. They take a lot of time, and then in high schools, big high schools, you might not see those as often, and that's something we really enjoy to do, which is where we monitor student growth and the courses they're taking. Priority 9 and 10 are unique solely for COEs, as you know. The coordination of services for expelled youth, and that's the countywide expelled youth plan, which we will be doing a new one next year. And then priority 10, coordination of services for foster youth throughout the county. And that we do as well here as part of our student support services department. And so all of these priorities have been met. And the local indicators will then, after this presentation in the fall, as I mentioned, they're kind of merged and visible to all on the dashboard. And that is all I have for you today for the presentation of the local indicators in this requirement. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Trustee Roth.
Yeah. Okay. I believe I know the answers, but I'd like to be verified. Unduplicated students, how do you choose which group you count, or is it all joined together for unduplicated?
So the students that I believe you're talking about are English learners, foster youth, and low income student.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, that's done by, so if a student is classified as a student who is low income, they meet based on the free lunch application. So we do a process where we try to get as many students as possible to fill out the free and reduced lunch program to ensure that we are encapsulating all of or capturing all students. Because funding changes with that. So there's students who are low income, and then English language learners, when a student does a home language survey, and then that's when they first enter the California school system. And at that point, they're designated either an English language learner, and if they are until they are reclassified. And so that stays with them in their student information system, and then the foster youth students as well. So those would be the 3 categories.
If I could just add to that. So the reason they use the term unduplicated is because the students are just counted once. So if they're foster youth and qualify for as low income students, because of the
Okay, so
reduced lunch, you just count them one time. And so it's the count of students who have any one of those 3 categories. They're foster youth or language learners, or socioeconomic status.
And then they're not included in the overall student count.
So we get, the way it works is,
Sorry about
No,
that.
no.
no.
So for
thank
the local control funding formula, we get additional funding for students who are unduplicated students because the funding formula asserts that these students need additional services so that we get additional funding. So we get funding for all our students, and then we get additional funding for our students who are in this unduplicated.
And Pacific Collegiate does not come in under any of this, right? When we're reporting, they do their own.
Correct. So these are the students that are enrolled in our schools, which are
Right.
alternative education.
I know, I
Yeah.
think I really knew that, but I wanted to make sure.
Correct. So this is our, we have our own codes, our own schools. And so these are the schools that are core and community schools, which are the county office of education, not any other school districts.
Oh, it definitely is. It's the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. All county offices of education are who authorize other programs. It confuses me sometimes too. So
And
I
PCS
appreciate
is
the
also not
question.
included.
Yeah. Yep.
Other questions or comments, trustees?
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
Okay, this doesn't require any vote, so thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Trustees, we're now to item 6.3, a similar presentation from Denise Guerra Sanson about the Career Advancement Charter School.
Yes, and I'd like to welcome Director Guerra Sanson.
Green, good afternoon, board trustees. Yes, this presentation is similar. I'm representing our Career Advancement Charter, our adult charter high school diploma and equivalency program. And this slide deck is very brief. What I'm sharing with you this evening is very similar to what Dr. Isaac Gonzalez just shared, that we have met our local indicators that are reflected in the LCAP that you reviewed and received last week. Here is an overview of the requirements that we need to meet. Where we are slightly different on the next slide is just a slight difference that we don't report on parent engagement, rather it's student engagement, as our students are adults. If you could go to the next slide, please. So priority 3, we measure how our students are engaging through our advisories, through surveys, through self-assessments, reflections, et cetera. That is the one difference here. And also we don't report on 9 and 10 because we're a charter and not the county office for expelled youth. And I'm blanking on the other one, foster youth. Thank you. So yes, we're meeting our priority areas, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have them. I wanted to give a quick gratitude to Angela Meeker for coming over and helping me that day. I got stuck on a technical thing and she came right over and helped walk me through it because it is really confusing, the LCAP and working in different platforms. And so wanted to acknowledge you. I was thinking about you this morning.
Thank you. Comments or questions, trustees? Good work. Thank you.
Thank
Such
you.
an important school.
Thank you.
And we don't need a vote on that. So we will now move, trustees, to item 6.4, which is the Santa Cruz County Office of Education Summary of Support for School Districts. And I believe Dr. Meeker is going to present.
Yes, Dr. Meeker is going to be presenting our COE summary of support, and there have been some additional components that we're going to be reporting this year. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Meeker.
So good afternoon, President Van Allen and trustees. I'm happy to be here to share the support, the summary of support that our Ed Services team has provided in the past year. We provide this report to the governing board along with the LCAP and budget, and then we forward it up to the CDE. We're going to be providing tonight updates on the 3 goals for this work, in addition to specific information, as Superintendent Sabah mentioned, about collaboration and our budget. Next slide, please. kind of wanted to ground this work in some really powerful professional learning that took place in London Nelson Center in March. Sometimes when I'm asked to share what I do, I feel like I'm just sharing reports and not really the heart of it. So this is an example of a lesson study which involved collaborative cycle of planning, teaching, observing live lessons, collecting data, and reflecting on the impact of instructional choices with first graders, which makes it all the better. In March, we had 5 first grade teachers from San Lorenzo Valley participate. And this was put together with our math coordinator, Kevin Drinkard, with support from many community partners. During the lesson, pairs of first graders chose items to count. They developed strategies to count them, and they created written representations of the counting strategy. And in this photo, you see first grade teacher, Mr. Brenner, who is doing, I think, the most powerful level of support, which is listening to the group and asking intentional questions. Within our system of support that I'm going to share tonight, there are times where we're in the front of the room sharing best practices. And then there are a lot of times where we're on the ground or running across the street, asking questions and providing support. Everyone in the process has a role, and all of the roles are important. So as I share these kind of dry updates, I hope to kind of reflect back on the different ways we support. So our first goal is to approve all LCAPs, and this involves some on-the-ground support, collaborating with our districts to identify actions that are meeting the goals, as well as areas where they may need to revise actions. This collaboration includes individual meetings for targeted support and large group trainings where districts can share questions and recommendations. There's also an element of standing in the front of the room, particularly when the CDE gives us updates that we need to provide. And finally, there's a very important role, which is to sign off on the LCAPs, really ensuring that both the process and the product are aligned with our state guidelines. Our second goal is kind of the meat of it all, is to provide technical assistance to those districts who have been identified as being eligible for differentiated assistance. There are really 2 ways that we do this, and I'll get into that in the next 2 slides. But the data that was most recently published identified additional schools who are eligible for this support. So we're going from working with Pajaro Valley and San Lorenzo Valley to including 3 new districts. And I can share that there are 62%, I believe, of all the districts in California now identified for differentiated assistance. So going back to what we heard from CETA and what we hear from our partners, the pandemic had a really huge impact. And so we're going to be working, broadening the scope of this work that we do in the year to come. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk about the 2 different forms of support. So there's targeted support or technical assistance, which is really the work of facilitating meetings with district teams where we discuss their action plans, we review their data, and we determine next steps. So with Pajaro Valley, we've been focused on literacy for students with disabilities. And with SLV, we've been focused on reducing the number of suspensions overall, as well as focused work to support students with disabilities. So this is the kind of work that you do after you've been kind of made eligible. But I want to go to the next slide, and this is where I think the heart of the work is we want to do core instructional program support so that districts and their student data don't get to the point of needing this targeted assistance. So I love how I write notes and then I don't read them, but this is, to me, this is the hard work of we want to ensure that every student in our districts has access to the best program so that their outcome data represents that we've really met our goal of equity. So I'm going to throw up on this slide, I'm sharing things that are not so much about addressing problems as they are about addressing the core, which is looking to provide professional learning for all math teachers, ensuring that we continue our multilingual network and support for best practices for English learners, training and support with our SELPA director on inclusion, and culturally responsive teaching with administrators, with administrative teams at 2 of our districts. as well as coordinating all of this professional learning and really bringing together our leadership from across the county. I think our theory of action here is if we can do really good work for the core program, then we will have fewer districts ending up needing that targeted support. So our next slide is a new one. I think it's one back. Maybe it's our budget slide. Oh, it's not in here. So there is a budget slide, and there are people who know this budget in the room. There we are. So our differentiated assistance budget is based on the number of districts who are eligible, and it really goes to support the coordination of professional learning. So all of those things that I shared previously, our budget provides for the salaries, benefits, indirect costs, and travel for 6 positions. So again, we're really looking more at the core. So we do this work in conjunction with our regional and state partners. And I think there maybe one of the slides. There you go, collaboration. So we do have some wonderful partners who support us in this work. We have regional meetings. There are opportunities for us to share best practices across the counties and across the state. And you'll note in the report that we are able to participate in most of these, if not all. In some cases, we have folks on our team who are leading these efforts as well. And I'm so sorry, I think I did skip the last one, which is goal 3. So the last one I want to address is providing support in implementing the LCAP. So we're helping our districts with creating this LCAP, looking at their data, and then bringing it forward and going through the approval process. But really the LCAP should be a year-long process of analysis, of determining which of these actions are having an impact. And that's the work that our team does as well. We are continuing to provide support based on what is in the LCAP, as well as targeting areas of need that have been defined through the goal analysis. So that is our last goal. And I'm so sorry that those were out of order. I also apologize for getting the report to you so late, and I'm hoping we can take a moment to just see if there are any questions about the report or about any of the support that we're providing.
Trustees. I managed to find time to read it just before I came over today, and I appreciate the work that went into it and the thoroughness. Oh, I'm sorry. And Trustee Filicetti.
Thanks, Bruce. I also had the opportunity to read through the report that was sent over. Look, you answered one of my questions. I could not find out for the life of me what the CCEE was, and you described it here. Thank you. We kind of get caught up in our own nomenclature of things, and I forget what all the acronyms are. I was wondering, so there are some insert metrics, insert actions on page 5 of the document that you sent us, and on page 9 of the documents. Are we going to, are those going to be filled in before we send? Is that particular thing going in, or is that for us?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So for those of you who don't have this in front of you, on page 5, there's an optional prompt for COEs with districts who meet the criteria for additional support. And this, I did a little bit of looking into this. It's not required by Ed Code, but it's an opportunity for our COE to highlight any intensive work that we're doing with a district. And we do have one district that would meet that criteria. And so we have the option to fill in the prompts there with an intensified effort. We know that that district right now is going through a leadership change, and I think it's probably best for us to wait until that transition has happened and to continue to work with them. We also have the option of engaging with CCEE to provide intensified support. Superintendent Sabah and I have met with the district leaders. We've met with CCEE, and we think at this point, we'll continue going forward with our team. But at this point, we're not going to complete that until we have a new plan with new leadership.
And is that language inserted in here any place, or you just leave it blank?
It isn't inserted in there. It's in the instructions, but I think what might be best before I send this to the CDE is to put a narrative in there so it doesn't look like I just forgot to address it.
No, I think it'd be very helpful to reference the leadership change and that type of thing. And then the other one that was blank on my copy was 9. And maybe it's just, okay, you've got the insert cost, insert total estimated.
Oh, you know what? I see, Rose. Insert total estimated cost is not complete. Thank you. I will bring that down. Yeah, so the total that we had for goal 2 should fall to the bottom for total estimated cost. Thank you so much.
That's okay. And just thank you for so much of the funding, if you will, being spent on leadership and people who can make this happen. We're not spending it on materials. We're not spending it on, a number of things. We're spending it on people, and that makes a real difference. Thank you.
Thank you for recognizing that. And I think that's the strength of our county is that we have such great partnership with our districts. We're really investing in people and relationship. Thank you.
See, Felicity. Other trustees, Trustee Roth, you had a question, comment?
No,
Oh.
just
Dr. Spa.
Just make a comment.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'm excited about with Dr. Meeker's role as our Ed Services Associate Superintendent is to continue to provide support to our school districts. I think we have, some of the things, one of the areas that has been identified, and you saw that already as one of our priority areas, but I think it's going to be even more so is the area of math. And after the pandemic, students are really demonstrating a lack of mastery in mathematics across the board. And all the districts are looking for help with this. And so Angela is going to be working with all the school districts to put together a plan for a countywide math initiative, hopefully for implementation at the latest in the fall of 2024, but hopefully we'll get some things started and put in place this coming school year. But I just think we have a really strong team and we also have great respect for the work of the Ed Services Department. And so I think that in many cases, the districts look to us at least a partner, sometimes as their district office to provide support and guidance. And they really are relying on us to be able to help guide, support, and learn from them because they're doing amazing work. And so I'm just grateful for Dr. Meeker and her efforts.
Thank you. Trustees, we're now to section 7 of our agenda, and the first item 7.1 is to consider adoption of the 2023 to 2024 Local Control Accountability Plan for the Santa Cruz Office of Education. And Dr. Sabah, I believe you'll want to introduce Dr. Isaac Gonzalez.
As Dr. Isaac Gonzalez comes up, you saw we had a public hearing last week about our local control and accountability plan for our court and community schools. And so welcome back, Dr. Isaac Gonzalez.
Happy to be here. This is the fun meeting because we did all the presentation and questions and this is I like to come here and kind of close up this year's LCAP. And I'm here if there were any other questions that came up over the past week. But I'm very confident in all of the work that our entire team and our students did to prepare this year's LCAP.
If Trustee Felicity has a comment or question.
Yeah, I know you guys get tired of me saying this, but I will reflect again. I'm so impressed about how we listen to either parents or students themselves and make them feel safe, make them feel supported, and do our very best to provide them the best educational opportunity. And I thank you, Jennifer, and your entire team for making that happen. Do you want a motion, Bruce?
I sure would like one.
I will make a motion to approve.
Motion by Felicetti. Do I hear a second? Second by Roth. Any further discussion? I just wanted to add a comment with a little bit of a question in it. In your the little charts, the tables with the scores, I like to see the 3s and the 4s. Where the 3 means it's been initiated, 4 means it's been implemented. The 5 column had very few, and that's implemented and sustainable. And I just wonder if you could comment on what the sustainability dimension of that is.
I would say we err on the side of not using 5s that often because first of all, there are always changes in regulations as Angela discussed when you get to do the wonderful CDE updates. So it always feels like there's a shifting target or a moving target that we're looking at. And I do appreciate that question. So I think in general, first, I'd say our philosophy is when you put 5, it's just things are just always perfect. And in the past few years, one thing that has come up is that we've had to shift how we look at implementing every single thing because the educational landscape changed so much. And so I think we're a little bit hard on ourselves when we do the local indicators, and so I would say it's mostly our philosophy of it's you put 5 there, then it's like, well, everything's perfect. Yeah.
That's sort of what I thought, but I just
and I'll say Rose, Trustee Felicetti will never get tired of hearing that. I appreciate that. And a comment to that is what Sita said, and I won't be too long here, but what Sita said when looking at you, Ferris, about how you always listen and how she felt heard as an employee here. I think it's a cultural thing throughout our entire organization. And the most impact, some of the most important people that impacts the students and families, as you mentioned. But that really resonated with me. I feel like that is the philosophy of our organization, is to really listen, get to know, and support. So.
Thank you. Trustees, we have a motion and a second to approve the local control accountability plan for Santa Cruz County Office of Education for the 2023 to 2024 year. Do I have any further discussion or questions? If not, ask the clerk to call the roll, please. Oh, it's just a voice vote. No? Yeah, it says voice vote. Yeah. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of all present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, we're next to item 7.2, the parallel effort for adopting the 2023 to 2024 local control accountability plan for the Santa Cruz County Career Advancement Charter. And we have Denise get us on some again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is our follow-up as well, and here if there are any questions or clarification needed from last week's presentation. Excited to implement this plan and then start a new one for the next cycle.
Trustees? Trustee Felicetti?
Okay, I'll say the same thing again, Sony. I certainly appreciate the fact that we're spending our money on people and people are making the difference. This charter is amazing. Thanks so much, and I'm happy to move for approval.
Motion by Felicetti. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Nichols. Did you have any further comment? Trustee Felicetti?
No, I'm sorry. Did I not lower? Oops, let me lower my hand.
Good. Thank you. Trustees, any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll ask for a ayes and nays. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All present. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Trustee Felicetti, for your kind words.
These were now at item 7.4, whoops, 7.3, excuse me, which is to adopt or not the Santa Cruz County Office of Education 2023 to 2024 budget. And I believe Dr. Sabah will want to introduce our County Superintendent, Deputy Superintendent of Business Services, Leon Reyes.
It is my pleasure to give the floor over to our Deputy Superintendent, who's going to be talking to you about our budget.
Good evening,
Welcome
everyone.
back. Yeah.
Thank you. I missed you all, seeing you in person. I'm sure you all missed me. I was trying to convince Melissa and Becky last week to buy the gray wig, and they were just not having any of that. So also, I heard a lot of comments. I did get to listen in. I know that we didn't have anyone come. Thank you for staying, Melissa. You did a great job last week. Thank you. And I literally called her, I think around noon or 1 o'clock, and said, I can't do it. I've been trying so hard, but I just can't do it. So I heard a lot of comments last week about Melissa was trying to make it fun and make it so you could be engaged and remember what was going on. So I thought, I'll make it fun for you tonight. I brought a pop quiz. The fun, but now you're engaged, Ms. Roth. All right. So this was meant to be fun. And I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can just self-grade yourself. You don't have to turn in any papers. And the title of this is, which is the most correct answer? Didn't you hate those ones in school? Which answer is the most correct? All right, here we go. Why do we tighten up budgets at estimated current year actuals when developing the next year's budget? Option A, because we don't want people to spend any more money. Option B, it makes closing the books way easier at June 30th. Or option C, it provides the basis for estimating what our beginning balance might be for the starting new year, or what we refer to as the jumping off point. Give you a moment. I wish I had Jeopardy music. If I had more time, I would have. I'll let you think for a second while I take a sip of water. The answer is C. All right. Why do our adopted budgets show a large budgeted deficit when compared to actual results? Option A, revenue is budgeted conservatively while expenses try to capture all vacancies and other costs. Option B, that's just the way you do it. Option C, the rules change all the time. We can never get it right. And the answer is option A. Revenues are budgeted conservatively. How you doing, Rose? I got the smile over there. She's having fun. Look at her.
I have gotten the correct answers.
All right, Rose.
already.
Okay, a couple more. Number 3. Last year, we did deficit spend over $1 million in our unrestricted budget, but that was because business guessed wrong. Option B, a lot of new expenses came in that surprised us. Or was it option C? GASB 31 entry for unrealized losses had to be booked, which accounted for 1.17 of the total unrestricted deficit of 1.1. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had a deficit. And the clear and obvious answer on that one was C.
Yeah, I think you told us that one.
I know, and that you can tell I'm not bitter either, am I? All right. A couple more. What do business folks mean when we use the term fall out? A, they had a disagreement with their friend and now they aren't talking anymore. B, wait, isn't that a rock band, boy? Or C, that encumbered or budgeted expenditures do not come to fruition, resulting in more money falling out, but when the books are closed, then we end up increasing our estimated ending fund balance. And the option is, I know you want it to be B, Ferris, I can tell, but no, it's not Fallout Boys, it's option C. And then lastly, do we expect more budgeted revenue to show up in our future financial statements? Option A, yes, because at first interim, our deferred revenue will be recorded. Option B, yes, because carryover amounts will be recorded. Or option C, yes, because more info on grants and other positive outcomes from the governor's signed budget will need to be taken into account. And all 3 answers are right on that one, so nobody loses on that one. So thank you for bearing with me. Normally I say this is just a straight up gavel bang and we can move on, but I really wanted to, again, thank you for being gracious with Melissa last week. And also let you have a little fun with the 23-24 proposed adopted budget.
Trustees, we have now achieved a high standard for these kinds of agenda items. And I would entertain a motion. Rose, do you want to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion and then I'll make a comment. I make a motion to approve. And I'm laughing because I was really expecting some of the most boring drill down on numbers possible going through all these pages. So thank you for making budget fun.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I need a second to the motion. Second by Nichols. And for this, we just need a voice vote also. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of all present. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Like I said, you set a high bar now. So. Trustees, we're now at item 7.4, approving, which is about a resolution 23-22, usage of funds generated by propositions 30 and 55, education protection account for the Santa Cruz COE. And Dr. Sabah, I think you'll want to introduce the Deputy Superintendent of Business Services again.
You're making up for last week.
Yes, please, Deputy Reyes, take the floor again.
All right. No quizzes anymore, I promise. That was the only one. All right, what we have in front of us is Resolution 23-22, which is usage of funds generated by Proposition 30 and 55, or the Education Protection Account EPA funds for the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. As you may recall, Prop 30 was passed and added to the California Constitution in November of 2012. And then Prop 55 became effective as well in November of 2016. And these propositions basically stated that the EPA account was to be continuously appropriated for the support of schools, and it should not be used to pay for any administrative costs whatsoever. And because this is in the Constitution, California State Constitution, we do need to have a public resolution come forward for this, as well as if you can move to the attachment, which should be after the resolution. You can see that the plan for spending of these funds is the attachment there. That's like kind of the meat of. Not on the slideshow, but it is in the packet. Okay, great. So if you look in your packet, you're going to have a little kind of Excel looking document. I'm hoping you can find it. I wish I should have wrote the page number down as a reference. I apologize. In any event, you can see all the money, the $5.4 million is being set aside for the use of instructional purposes only. Thank you. Page 316. Thank you, Sandra.
So the actual attachment, is that the one on 320? Right? Am I seeing that correctly? And this is the $5.4 million figure. Had you finished your presentation?
I have, I apologize.
No problem. Trustee Filicetti, you have a hand?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Leanne, I win this quiz too, because that was gonna be my question. Why did we have numbers after the resolution? So thank you. Bruce, do you wanna
Motion? Yes, please.
I move to approve.
Motion by Filicetti. Second by Nichols to approve resolution 23-22 regarding usage of funds generated by proposition 30 and 55 for the Santa Cruz COE. And for this, we need a roll call vote as a resolution.
Trustee Alta.
Yes.
Trustee Filicetti.
Aye.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Trustee Roth.
Yes.
Trustee Sanchez.
Yes.
President Van Allen.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously of all present. Thank you. And similarly, item 7.5, which is a resolution 23-23. Similarly, use of funds generated by propositions 30 and 55, but now for the charter advancement, the career advancement school. Dr. Bates? Oops, no, Ms.
Okay.
You'll take that, okay.
For a similar, I won't go through the whole or quiz you on what your Prop 30 was passed, other than the amount of money available for career advancement charter, as is shown on page 325 of your agenda, is for the amount of $27,000 and also is all set aside for instructional purposes.
Questions or comments, trustees? If not, I'd like a motion, please.
Also move.
Motion by Roth,
Second.
second by Alto. And we need a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Alto,
Yes.
trustee Filicetti,
Aye.
trustee Nichols. Trustee Roth,
Yes.
trustee Sanchez,
Yes.
President Van Allen.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously by all present. We're now to item 7.6, which is another resolution 23-24 to establish Fund 56 as a debt service fund. Deputy Superintendent Reyes.
You can call me Leanne if you want.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so I'm going to go a little bit slow with this one because this is a new concept, I'm sure, for most of you on the board. I kind of had to talk about it a little bit with some of our colleagues, both in the superintendent's office and the business department, before we kind of came to this conclusion. What you have before you is a resolution for the purpose of establishing a Fund 56 debt service fund. So the accomplishment that we would have by establishing this fund for the County Office of Education is, one, it would give us greater clarity of our unrestricted fund balance in Fund 01, because we wouldn't have it being, what I will use the word, cluttered up with transactions and set-asides or assignments as it pertains to the payment of our certificate of participation, or what we fondly refer to as our COPS payment. Also, it's been a proven strategy that results in establishing these funds. It's a proven strategy that you're going to be able to have dedicated resources that with greater transparency in being used towards your debt management. The authorization for the establishment of a Fund 56 comes out from government code, not ed code. I was kind of going a little crazy looking for the ed code authorization of this. There's only 2 funds in the whole chart of accounts that goes with government code. And of course, this happened to be one of them. So the government code cited here would be government code 29303. So why now? So since I got here, I'll tell you a little story. There was always a lot of conversation about trying to pay the COP off early, but we weren't going to be able to that until we reached a certain year. And that certain year is 2023. We're in that year now. So the thought at the time from some of the internal business from our business department was that, well, that's great, because now you can start chipping away at it, kind of like you do your mortgage. You know, you can pay an extra $1,000 a month and pay your mortgage down sooner, right? But as we reviewed the documents as the COPS was set up, it doesn't work that way. The way the COPS is set up is that if you want to pay it down, you pay it off. You pay the whole balance due. That isn't a practical thing for us. It would make a huge dent in our ending fund balance. So I got to thinking, well, there's another way that we can kind of start saving toward being able to pay off that COP early by kind of setting it aside in this debt service fund. So right now, we have finally crossed the bar as far as the source of funding for our COPS payment is the redevelopment agency funds that we received, our RDA money. And if I'm saying anything too fast or it doesn't make sense, please let me know, because it's a little bit of a complicated financial transaction we're talking about here. We are at a point now where the amount of money we receive in for the RDA actually exceeds the amount of what our standard payments are on the COPS. I don't want to lose that money in my ending fund balance when I could be setting it aside for its intent when this building was purchased. And I'm trying to remain true to the intent of the original purchaser of the building. And also I know Abel, you and I've had conversations too about can we pay it off early and is it time? And I know you've always been really involved in this as well, as far as following and tracking it. So by establishing a Fund 56, the steps are we would pass the resolution tonight. We will give the resolution to the county treasurer's office. They'll open up a new account for us. We start directing, well, we would first establish money into that account by, if you recall on your financial statements, we have an assignment every cycle for $1.2 million for a COPS payment. That's also sitting in our ending fund balance. So it kind of muddies the water when you think about what's our actual ending fund balance when we know we're setting aside this particular amount of money. So we would next transfer that money over into Fund 56 as its intended purpose is for debt. Then we would redirect our RDA funds so that they also 100% deposit into Fund 56. Then in turn, we make our payments out of Fund 56 to the folks that hold the paper. In so doing, we'll start amassing or accumulating extra money in the way that we were kind of thinking we could do when we could chip away at it, but it's not allowed. But this is another way we could chip away at it and earn a little interest at the same time, specific for that goal of debt. Originally, the debt on the amortization schedule would be completely paid off in 2037. Me not knowing exactly what the future revenue stream of RDA would be, I can't predict how much sooner we might be able to pay it off, but I can tell you by doing it this way, the X is going to cross much sooner than if we just continue to sit on and not fully utilize our RDA dollars towards this debt. So the way we wrote the resolution, if you go down to the 1, 2, 3rd, whereas, this is where we state that we would be using the RDA money to fund into the Fund 56. And then if there's ever any other occasion that we want to tuck away another extra $50,000 a year or something, this resolution would then enable us to use other non-targeted, unrestricted general fund dollars to help build up again a balance. So at some point, the X will cross and then future generation, I don't know if I'll be here still, but we'll be able to pay the COPS off earlier. So I know that's a lot to absorb. So I'll pause and see if there are any questions or clarifications. The really nice thing I like about this is it's a strategic plan that you'd be entering into and showing some really great fiscal stewardship.
Thank you.
Just to add it, so just as a reminder that the COP is a loan that we to acquire this property.
Trustee Roth.
Can future boards take money out to expend it elsewhere?
This isn't an irrevocable account, which I think is what you're trying to
Okay,
describe.
okay.
It's not irrevocable. However, I would hope with the passing of this resolution and the language contained therein, that they would honor that commitment to debt.
Other questions or comments?
Oh, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the thought and effort that went into that. And like you mentioned, right, it's paying it all off as once would be a tough blow, but what's the saying? The easiest way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, or something around. So that's how I interpreted your presentation.
Yes.
But thank you. Thank you for making sure that we're all legally compliant and following up on that. I love elephants. I would never eat one.
Other comments or questions? I just wanted to say also thank you. And I see this both as strategic, but also better transparency in our finances. And that's really important. Could you give us a sense of what the margin is between the 1.2 million and the typical RDA installment? Is it
The
2%?
payment?
Yeah.
The payment runs around $600,000 per cycle. So it's the 1.2 is roughly equivalent to 2.
I see. Oh,
And
really?
then the amount of RDA money we're getting right now is just peaking over in the $700,000 to $800,000 range. And again, I don't want to lose sight of that in our operating budget. I'd like to, as my understanding is that's what the original intent was when the building was purchased and the RDA money was going to be the source. That also ensures that we're not using any unrestricted dollars that are meant for operations of the business.
Thank you. And trustees, we need a motion and a roll call vote. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Nichols, second by Sanchez, and a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Alto?
Yes.
Trustee Filicetti?
Aye.
Trustee Nichols?
Yes.
Trustee Roth?
Yes.
Trustee Sanchez?
Yes.
President Van Allen?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously by all present.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Thank you. We're now at item 7.7, which is our public disclosure of one of our collective bargaining agreements. And Dr. Sabah, you want to describe that?
Yes, as is our tradition when we come to agreements with our bargaining units, we bring you the disclosure for your review and approval. And we had a really wonderful, we had some changes in our bargaining team this year, and Leanne Reyes and Troy Cope and other folks were a part of that team and did an outstanding job working in collaboration with both CSEA and our CTA representatives. So we're here to share with you what the fruit of that labor was. Leanne?
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to kind of go, we have two of these tonight. So I'm going to kind of go slow on the first one, but that means we hope they can go a little faster on the second one. All right. So what you have before you in accordance with AB 1200 is your public disclosure of the collective bargaining agreement. The adopted budget, I want to start with kind of going back to our adopted budget for a minute. The adopted budget includes all costs for the employee increases, estimated costs. And this is where we're going to break it apart for you and disclose to you how much each bargaining unit was. I'm trying, I can't even read my own writing because I wrote this in a rush today. So gosh, all right. So items 7.7 and 7.8 are the required public disclosures for the bargaining unit settlements for the 23-24 fiscal year. I do, though, want to put it all together for you because it's not just the certificated bargaining unit. It's not just the classified bargaining unit, but it's also all the other unrepresented groups of individuals who work at the County Office of Education. So you're not going to see this number on any of these documents, but I just want to let you know the magnitude of this particular settlement. So the total dollars that are going to impact the certificate, classified, and unrepresented salary schedules is estimated at $3.2 million. That's a big bite. And that also means that we were relying on 100% of the new LCFF revenue that was being generated as a result of finally being able to receive a COLA. And when those new dollars came in, we did a little bit of backwards mapping on what percentage that might represent and had conversations with Dr. Sabah about where we felt our sweet spot was and where we thought our ability to dip into our ending fund balance would come through to help fund this particular request. So this is going to be funded by part of our new monies coming in so far. There could be more coming. We're waiting for the governor and also a little bit from our reserves. So it's like, car dealer, right? The car, you get the deal. It's like, you're not happy. The dealer's not happy, but you ended up with a car. So I'd say this is a little bit like a car deal that we made here. I'm actually really pleased that we're going to be able to support our staff. They've worked really hard. They work really hard all the time. So I'm also pleased with the result. So most CBOs would never say that, by the way. Okay. With the surrounding districts in the last couple of years, you may have heard they gave some really large increases. And we weren't able to do that because we weren't receiving any new dollars. As a matter of fact, we were decreasing in enrollment. And I know you all have been following the bouncing ball of that with me over the last 3 years. So they kind of were, getting out ahead of us because they were able to give better raises than we were and better benefits. So they've got that COLA the last few years that we never had. So, the COA's always tried to be competitive with the districts, and we weren't in a position prior to this. So I do feel like a little bit of this is trying to help us even up with our other neighbor districts. And also it's really good for recruitment and retention. So I hope you're as pleased as I am with the information I'm about to share with you. Okay, so looking at the first page of the disclosure, you can see that the cost for the salary schedule increase for the certificated bargaining unit, in terms of pure salary, it's $629,000 or 8%. And when you drop into that, the cost for a longevity stipend and also the statutory taxes, it comes out to about $816,000. Also, we saw probably the largest increase in our health and welfare costs this time than we've ever seen before. No surprise, I'm sure. And as a result, it was becoming, I think, difficult for some of our bargaining unit members to, look at the cost involved with that. Typically, the COE has paid 50% of any premium increase for the employees, and the employee pays the other 50%. We were able to negotiate a 70-30 split with the COE picking up 70%, also in an effort to make things better for our employees. The overall value of that increase to the bargaining unit in terms of percentage was 1.6%. And you're not going to see that number anywhere on this piece of paper. So that's why I'd like to disclose it to you. So moving on to the explanations page. Some of the other things besides an 8% salary increase, another item that was added was a new longevity stipend of 1.75% to anyone who had completed 10 years of service. So with the commencement of their 11th year, they would receive an additional 1.75% in income. That value is embedded in the number on the first page. It was about $50,000, not too bad. And that was with a value of 0.5% when you think about the cost of the total bargaining unit. On item 12, there was a typo. This is where we talk about the 70-30 split. And it said that the approximate increase was 2.2 of salary for the bargaining unit. It's more like 1.6. So that was a typo that I didn't catch in time. So when you add all those little pieces together, the overall increase to this bargaining unit in terms of percentage is just over about 10.1%. So it's a great result for the unit. So the estimated costs again for this agreement have already been wrapped into our adopted budget. Melissa did a great job in probably the 11th and a half hour of dropping that into our budget. And if you look at page, I think it's 334 of the packet. Let's see if Nick's like ready to die for me over there. Thanks, thank you. Page 334. If you look at the lower third of the document, I'm kind of showing you right down in this section down here. You can see that the beginning balance of $34,746 and then the current year ending balance estimate of $28,702 will tie out exactly to your adopted budget. That's earlier in the packet. By if you look at Form 01, column F, that's page 214, if you want to go back and reference it at a later time. So that also shows you that those numbers are already kind of woven into our budget. But it also helps you, now that you know what the total number is, understand a little bit better why our deficit was so large in this particular year.
You meant million.
Million, yes, millions. Sorry, did I say the wrong thing again?
Thousand.
I'm so sorry. Million, you know me in numbers. I'm really bad with numbers. I appreciate you helping me with that all the time. Million. So again, I think that saying that it was the 3.3 million was the total cost of this deal. And then I'm saying like, okay, now it makes more sense why our budget looks so scary this year. This is a big piece of it. And I wasn't really at liberty to discuss that yet because we didn't have the public disclosure. So I appreciate your being satisfied with we've got raises in our budget without asking for a lot of information on that. And I think that concludes my presentation for a certificated bargaining unit. Unless there's any questions.
Trustees, any questions or comments?
I have a question. Sorry if I missed it, but the 1.75 longevity stipend, is that one time or is that ongoing?
It'll be ongoing. So some people, I think longevity is usually the term associated with that. And it's going to be an add-on to their base pay.
It's not starting now, 10 years from now, but it goes back. If someone's already been here 9 years, then next year they qualify.
Actually, if they've been here 10 years,
And
with the
then-
completion of their 10th year, their salary, they continue to move on the salary schedule, but they also then get an add-on that's equal to 1.75% of the cell that they currently are on the salary schedule. It's kind of a longevity. It's kind of a reward for sticking with us.
And if you were part-time, just when it adds up to 10 years of service, they get that.
You could be.
Maybe you don't have part-time.
We have some. You could be part-time, but if your years of service are equal to 10 and you've completed your 10th year, even if you're part-time, you still would be eligible for the longevity stipend. Remember, though, everything's prorated by your FTE. So you would get the full 1.75% if you were a 1 FTE, which equals a full-time employee. But if you're a 0.5 or less, then you'd get the portion thereof. Does that make sense? Right.
Trustee Filicetti.
So all I can say is bravo. This is so impressive. And we stayed and all our unrestricted reserves are met. I move to approve. Is that what we do, Bruce?
Actually,
kind of
this is just a disclosure, so we don't actually even need a motion.
Although it has your signature on the bottom.
Interesting.
This is like a standard form that most districts use. The person who will be signing off for us actually is Dr. Sabah, which he has signed off, and we've both already signed off on the.
Nope, keep going. Right down below, it says President. Oh, I see. He's going to sign as the clerk instead of having Bruce sign as the president.
I don't believe in the past that we've actually had a board member sign this, since Dr. Sabah is the one who actually has the authority, right? We'll try to fix that for our next one, make it a little clearer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo anyway.
Yeah, Bravo's accepted and passed on, and I want to add mine, and also for once again a successful negotiation with our labor partners.
We have great labor partners. I've worked in a lot of places where they're not so great, and everyone here is very kind, sincere, genuine. It's a really great environment.
Thank you. Now, we have a similar disclosure in 7.8. I believe you've pretty much covered the principles except for maybe the specific numbers.
Yep, I did. So on page 345 of your agenda, once again, we can see that the classified bargaining unit salary schedule will be increased 8% or $883,000. And when you roll into their longevity that they negotiated, as well as their statutory benefits, the total cost is $1.2 million of the total I disclosed to you a few moments ago. Key factors of this particular bargaining unit was, in addition to the 8%, an additional longevity step of 2.5% will be provided for employees that have at least 35 years of service. I didn't even cost that out because I think there's only one person who might get that, and I think it's around $2,500 or something. Okay. In addition to our current biliterate stipend, which is 5%, we also agreed to a bilingual stipend. So it's kind of a step a little bit lower. Biliterate, all disciplines of speaking a secondary language versus the bilingual. That's going to be at 2.5%. That one wasn't too super scary because we were able to retain management rights as far as deciding which sites, classrooms, and individuals need the additional support, because we do have a lot of bilingual certificated staff who are already in those classrooms. So this one, as I say, is scary. I don't think it's going to be a huge expense to us. It's going to be as needed and determined each year whether or not we need additional support. And then lastly, also, this group is getting the 70-30 split on their health and welfare. So the overall percentage value of this package for this group is very close to the first group. It's about 10.2%. Again, all costs are in our estimated budget, and we do meet our 3-year, multi-year projections, and that sums it up.
Good. Thank you very much. This is all very good news. Trustees, we're about at the end of our meeting. I'll note that our next meeting is July 20th. I wanted to mention that this week, the COE started the Student Trustee Academy. And I was fortunate to attend, as was Trustee Roth, and it was wonderful. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking the wrong way. It was wonderful, about 20 students and from several schools, and they seemed very motivated and interested, and I just love that we do this. And I may be back there again on my schedule and maybe be part of a presentation one of the times. So I encourage everybody, if you can work it out, it's 2 to 5 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 more weeks. Trustee Filicetti.
Yeah, I don't know if Ferris is going to mention it or not. Unfortunately, tonight, well, actually, we could almost make it. Tonight is one of the first Santa Cruz County Like Me community workshops. It starts at 6 at the Sheriff's Community Service Center. And I've asked them, since I didn't think we'd be able to do it, if we could get a report out on what was discussed. And I'm sure they're wanting to do that. Ferris, are you involved in that at all?
I am not. I'm not involved in that, but I'll be sure to get the information out and capture that.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Thanks. One more thing, if anybody's interested, that this weekend will be the repainting of the Black Lives Matter mural on the street in front of Santa Cruz City Hall, and everyone's invited. Wear your work clothes and bring your paintbrush. Trustee Roth.
I would just like to say that the teaching staff at the Student Academy, Trustee Academy, excellent. Ferris is quite the teacher, but he also has 2 young people. One is the student trustee at Live Oak.
She's actually an actual trustee.
Oh, I thought she was even impressive.
Marlise Velasco is.
I was
she
trying
appointed
to
at the Live Oak
recruit her
School.
for here. I didn't, but I thought it would be in time, like 2 years, because she comes across about 14 years
I
old.
think Rose knows her.
But anyway, and then another person who actually works here. at the-
Andres Ortiz is our coordinator of student leadership and engagement.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. And I would say, if you do have time, go I think probably let Veronice or Ferris know so that they can kind of maybe incorporate you or introduce you or something. But it's impressive. And also how acute some of their questions are and what they want.
And today, if I could just add to it, we had lots more student voices. The first day was a little, I think we maybe saturated it a little bit with teacher voice, but today there was a lot more, and the conversation was brilliant and inspiring.
Mhm.
Thank you, everybody. This concludes our meeting today, and we'll see you in July, if not sooner. Meeting adjourned.